Hello, and I've been guided to do this video overnight from a dream in respect to something that is keeping us as an individual and then also as a collective in a kind of a stuck, non-moving position forward that is potentially leading to some general blockages or undesired outcomes of the whole. And then the topic or the conversation that I've been guided to have is a conversation of communication. And the communication as we know it, or communication as we have come to understand it in our world, has become convoluted or has become hindered by the understanding of what we're speaking, and then two, where we're speaking it from. And so that is what they wanted me to address. So I'm thinking this would be a compilation of me channeling, and then also me speaking my mind from my three-dimensional standpoint. And then, you know, those two will kind of blend together. But the energetic structures of our being, of our what we consider our physical being, and then basically our spiritual being that rests within it, or rests within the parameters of us, is being blocked, and is being at a kind of like a point of pause, because we're actually holding on to the energetic of non-awareness of self, or what I would kind of describe it from the human standpoint of holding on to everything that is our truth inside of us, meaning not speaking our words, not allowing our own self to experience our own truth. I will go into the multitude of reasons of why, but from basically the fear of the outcomes that they will bring. And so energetically, I will address this first. What it does, it builds up this a wall of self, and the wall equates to denial, from, you know, the best description that I can generate in my mind of our truth. So we are holding on truth, we're holding on to, or the true essence of ourselves, by not speaking, not communicating what is it that we actually feel on the inside. And you know, that stretches in multitude of ways. It stretches into multitude of forms, but it basically is designing or propagating right now what is being looked at as a stuck potential of our human existence. And so on the personal anecdote, or the personal story of how this relates to it, my husband and I recently went through a kind of a set of what I would call COVID discoveries, where I confessed my personal set of beliefs, and then also fears that I held inside, one of which being an affair that I had, you know, many years ago. And then he confessed his side of things. And what that was doing, what the essence of that energy that I was holding inside was doing to me, it was holding me stuck in a position of lack of self-discovery. That is the best thing I can word it right now from my human standpoint. And so the energy, the truth of us, functions within parameters of open heart, right? So in order for you to reach your true self, in order for me to reach my true potential, my heart would need to be open. My essence of self would need to communicate the truth, energetic truth of my being. And anytime we choose non-communication, usually for our own, you know, self-preservation, we're choosing to close down our energetic flow, right? And we're choosing to close down the essence of our hearts. And so that is what is happening. That is what was happening, you know, to me several years back, whenever I had to verbalize my truth of my affair. And so prior to that, prior to the verbalization of it, the energetic frequency of self yearns, it wants to generate a true flow of the energies that exist around me and within myself, right? But because for whatever reason, honestly, out of fear, I was holding that truth or that energy within myself, it was restricting the entire circulatory system of my existence. And then, you know, from, again, three-dimensional standpoint, it was keeping me stuck in a point of non-movement. I had nowhere to go until I released that energy. Now, I'm very grateful for this, but, you know, thankfully for me, I would say that that was the one, the one and only thing that I was holding on to. And every part of me wanted it to come through. It wanted it to have it pour forward and actually verbalize the truth, you know, over the decades that I held it inside. But of course, the fear component of self prevented it from happening. But once I was able to cross that threshold, and that is the best way I can describe that movement from internal self, being internal captive to self, to actually opening yourself to the world and to the energies of self, is kind of like a moving, converting what is a wall into a door and then passing through that threshold. So from my literal physical self, like how it felt from the inside is I was trapped in the room, and that room held my truth, right? It held the truth, the energetic truth that needed to be poured out, that needed to exist in a verbalized, communicative, you know, way that I wasn't able to bring forth. And so Spirit very eloquently and gently, even though my conscious or subconscious self, my true being, wanted it to come forth, my I guess reptilian self, you know, out of fear, wanted it to compress it and hold it within the parameters of that locked existence, in hopes of, obviously, the reason why we hold it locked and the reason why we hold it inside is we hope that if it doesn't come out, then it does not become our truth, which, you know, makes zero sense in actuality. But you know, that's really the goal, is that we do not want to admit the truth of whatever we're holding inside to ourselves, and then therefore energetically we're just stuck. And so coming back to how I want to relay of how that stepping through the threshold feels like or happens, is once you identify or realize what is that you're, you know, yearning, your body's yearning to release, right? To release into the world, or really release into the speech of yourself, whether it is to the person that you heard directly, or whether it is to, you know, to the collective, or whatever it is, it's just a verbalization of your truth to somebody. Prior to that, you're locked in the room. Like, to me, it appeared a quite literal room. And then I kept on bumping against the wall that I kept on walking into, right? And then there's this ginormous part of me that did not want to cross this wall because it was a wall. And then sooner or later, I guess with lots of nudges and suggestions from my higher self and the spirit above, you know, which is really all is one, as I hit this wall hard enough one day, I can no longer stand in the front of the wall. So the wall was no longer able to support and hold my truth. Like that room, you know, that enclosed space could no longer contain what I was holding inside of me. And so I don't know, this was a while back, but on that faithful day, whatever day it happened to be, I'm sure my husband remembers it. I once I hit that wall, I had to make a door. I had to open that door, and I had to walk through it and put myself on the other side, or really on the true side of my truth, right? And so that is the collective, that is the energy of the collective that is being held in right now. We're holding we're holding our truth, whatever it might be. You know, to me it was an affair, to my husband it was something different, you know, to everybody else it is a different story, but the story is in essence is the same. So this is why I'm relaying this, as personal as it might be, is the story of our hold on whatever it is that is our personal truth is in fact the same between all of us, like all 8 billion of us. And you know, that fills my heart with unbelievable amount of hope and energy, that once we're able to open our heart, really go into our heart and feel what we are holding in, feel what that communication that we're holding in that is being restrictive, and able to allow that, and able to allow that flow to go forth. Really all the doors open internally for ourselves. Yes, that generates a lot of progression and communication on, you know, three-dimensional scale, to where relationships are being repaired, relationships are being really possibly facing each other for the first time in 20 years, right? So there's a lot of kind of the greater good cumulative outcomes that come out of that. But the truth is, the best outcome that actually comes out of that is the release of your internal true self. And so that is the essence of us, right? The essence of us is actually someone who is open-hearted, someone who is genuine, someone who is able to communicate their truth, not by talking. There's a lot of talking going on. So the truth is not from general talking, but from the general outflow of the heart. So I want to make that distinction, is the communication is not talking. There's the internal flow of your energetic truth from your heart center. And so ideally, you know, the second part of that, ideally what we can recognize is the truth that we communicate, the truth about my affair was not actually, it had nothing to do with the affair itself, right? It had nothing to do with why it happened, the details of how and what. The only thing it had to do, or the only thing that my verbalizing of the truth has to do with, is the actual, the essence of what that would mean for myself whenever I opened that Pandora's box, right? Why? What is the essence of me? So the truth, kind of like the big bubble, is, let's say, the affair itself, right? Or the whatever it happens to be for you. But you know, that is really the outwards blow of energy that was propagated from the center of why, right? Why. And then the why really propagates even deeper, which is kind of, this is the part where I get super excited about. It gets propagated even deeper into who, right? And that is the essence of the truth. That is the essence of the communication that we are, I think, denying within ourselves. Who was the person, and who is the person that performed action X, right? Who was I in that moment that needed to reach out and basically create this outburst of energy that, you know, in no way benefited anyone in the process, in order to cope with whatever I was dealing on the center point of the who, right? And that's the part that we're afraid of. That is where actually all the fear resides, right? Who am I in this moment to experience what I'm experiencing? And so the outflow of whatever the outcomes of what and why and where are really irrelevant. What we are actually facing on the center of ourselves is the who, right? The center of us, right? Who am I? And so in that moment, in that stepping through that threshold, what happened to me, and I'm hoping that, you know, you can relate, you allowed the true essence of who you are to come forth, right? You can no longer sit there and deny that I was the person who at that time was lost, right? I didn't know who I was. I did not know how to express my true essence of self. And the only expression that I could express in my 20s was this extracurricular activity that I happen to participate in, that led to all kinds of destructions of my inner self. So the damage within itself, the damage of possibly the immaturity of my 20-year-old not being able to realize why I'm seeking something or why I'm participating in something, is because the essence of who within me is being hindered in some way, right? So maybe it takes you being in your 40s for this to happen, but I'm hoping through this video, through this channeled essence, you will be able to relate to it and not have to wait 20 years for something to come out and be recognized. So yeah, the COVID brought that out, and I think COVID is bringing a lot of that out. I know COVID is officially over, but that's besides the point. But what it's actually bringing out is the yearning for a true self to spill forth, right? And so what I'm being asked to pass on is that in the essence of ourselves, right, in the essence of our true existence, we can only discover our being, we can only actually live our true purpose only and only when we're able to communicate our truth out to the world, to the truth, to truth out to those who are around us, to truth out, heck, start with a mirror of self, right? Communicate the truth to our own existence. And then through that communication of truth, we will be able to align our path. My hands were too low. Align our path with the essence of our true being. So self-discovery, self-actualization, self-reliance actually only exists and only propagates itself through an open heart communication. And so if you can pause and feel the energy, if there happens to be something that you're holding on the inside right now, I know how it feels, but I'm being guided to show it to you. So the energy of it, right, sits almost like a flooded gate, a closed gate around your heart, right? So the heart itself is being suppressed and closed, and I hope you feel it as you bring that subject up, right? So you feel yourself contracting and closing around your heart, right? Automatically, a pit in your stomach comes up, right? And possibly nauseousness, all kinds of things that you're actually physically trying to suppress the energy. So that pit in your stomach, the heart, the tension in the shoulders, right here in your neck, and kind of like at the top bottom of your head, ringing in the ears, heck, that's a thing. Throat, your glands are pulsating, throat is tightening. All of that is actually your body's visceral response to suppression of truth within your being, right? You're closed down of the communication center of self, right? And I'm not saying even a communication center from the standpoint of your throat chakra. I'm saying communication center from the true essence of your heart, right? So you lock yourself down, you lock your being in, and you hunker down in suppression of the truth in hopes that if you suppress it, it will not be the truth. But in essence, it's gonna flow, it's gonna come out. The essence of you is just gonna is asking for you to expose yourself out forth. And until that happens, until you realize that this energetic compression is really deteriorating your physical self, your mental self, your emotional self, nothing good will come out of it. And so that is where the world sits right now. The world, is functioning, our plane, our particular plane. I don't know about the planes of others, but our particular plane is functioning on the suppression of truth, like suppression of communications from our heart center. Because we're afraid, right? You're afraid of the outcomes. You're afraid of all of the what ifs that your reptilian brain is bringing it in. But in reality, I think you're just afraid to face your own truth, right? Just like I was afraid to face my own truth. What does it mean for me to be me? for Tanya to be Tanya in the moment where I say that I am someone who, had an affair. What does that mean? And that means that, heck, I'm lost, right? That's number one thing, is where can we admit to ourselves that we're utterly lost in a world, and then don't know how to move forward. And so those outbursts of actions, energy of talk, pointless talk, is all us, trying to explode our being out, in hopes of, really, our higher self is guiding us to where sooner or later the enough of those explosions will actually cause you to go, wait, let's center in, right? Let's organize around my being, right? Let's go inside and go, what is happening to me, right? And then from that point on, you'll realize, oh, I'm lost, and my heart is closed, and I'm not letting anything flow, right? And so that is kind of step one. Step one is allowing your being to flow, to communicate from your heart, to stop holding those energies that are step one, are creating the barrier of you actually moving out of this locked room. And so once you pass, step past that threshold, amazing things happened. Maybe to begin with are not so great, because there's a lot of conversations that take place about what you just said out loud. But post that initial shockwave, that tsunami that hits the shore, right, as the waters recede, then you're able to actually have a real conversation of self, right? Not the made up truth that you're just spitting out in hopes of that, you can still hide yourself inside your bubble and stay in this room and pretend like everything is hunky-dory. But the real conversation actually starts to happen once you pass that threshold. And so that is what my inner being and my spiritual guides are asking, is for this to come through. So please find the courage, the bravery of self to realize that what you're holding inside is not doing you any good. It is not doing anyone any good, but in the most important part, it is actually deteriorating your inner self. And then so once each one of us is able to pass that threshold and go past our own self and our own locked in box of suppression, and able to communicate the truth from the essence of our heart, things will just start to flow. And so that is what will happen once we are able to move past that threshold. So it is beautiful. The outflows of energy that lead to it is, kind of like one of those tear-jerking romantic comedies, or maybe a drama, I don't know. But it is. But then you will start to feel the essence of yourself, and you will start to recognize of where you are and who you are, and not necessarily the whys over the wheres, but who am I on the inside? And then from there, everything just starts to flow, right? If each one of us, all 8 billion of us, can come, heck, maybe even the fraction of us, I don't know, maybe one of us, can come out and start this flow of energetic truth through communication, then we will actually allow ourselves the essence of us. We will allow ourselves to meet the essence of us, and that is just the most beautiful thing I can possibly describe, and I don't even know that I have words to describe that. So happy communicating, happy discoveries, and may the strength be within you to allow yourself to move forth. And thank you for listening.